Have you ever been told you're too intense, too perceptive, or too much and never understood why? What if that sharpness isn't a personality trait at all? What if it's a trauma response your brain built to keep you safe? Today, we're breaking down exactly how that happens. Welcome back to The Mind Explained. Some people go through difficult childhoods and come out quiet, withdrawn, shut down. But others come out sharp, sharp in the way they read a room in seconds, sharp in the way they sense a lie before it's finished being told, sharp in a way that makes other people say, "How did you know that?" Most people call this intuition. They call it being good with people or having great instincts. But they rarely ask the question that actually matters. Where did you learn to see this clearly? Because nobody is born reading rooms like this. It's built. And psychology has a specific name for what builds it: a trauma response. When a child grows up in an environment that feels unpredictable, emotionally volatile, or simply inconsistent in ways too confusing to explain, the brain doesn't just survive it, it adapts to it. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, becomes more sensitive. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for reading social situations and predicting outcomes, develops differently than it does in a child raised in a stable, predictable home. The nervous system gets trained without permission, without a manual to scan, predict, and detect danger before it fully arrives. This isn't the intelligence that shows up on a test. It won't help you solve a math problem faster. But it teaches you to understand people at a level most people never have to access, and it happens so early, so quietly, that you grow up assuming everyone else sees what you see. They don't. Here are 7 signs that your intelligence didn't come from privilege, it came from pain. Sign 1. Your body never fully relaxes. You've probably never experienced what other people describe as truly relaxed. Not completely, not all the way. There's a quiet hum underneath everything, a low level alertness that doesn't fully switch off, even when you're alone, even when everything is objectively fine. Psychologists call this hypervigilance. It develops when a child's brain learns early that safety isn't guaranteed, that the environment can shift without warning, that you need to always be a little bit ready. So the nervous system never fully powers down. Here's what most people miss: that same hypervigilance, when it's not overwhelming you, is also what allows you to notice things other people walk right past. The half-second hesitation before someone says they're happy for you, the tension in a room nobody has named yet. Your nervous system was trained to scan for threat, but what it actually became is an incredibly sensitive detection instrument. You pick up on data other people filter out automatically, not because you're more perceptive by nature, but because your brain never had the luxury of filtering it out in the first place. The cost is that you're tired in a way that has nothing to do with physical effort. The gift is that you see what others miss entirely. Sign 2. You see what people are hiding before they know they're hiding it. You don't just notice surface emotions, you notice the contradiction underneath them. You hear the false note buried inside a compliment. You see the anger sitting quietly beneath a smile, the grief tucked under a laugh. And here's the strange part: you don't do this on purpose. It happens automatically beneath conscious awareness, like your brain runs a background process and simply hands you the finished conclusion. Researchers who study children raised around emotionally unpredictable caregivers found something specific. Children who had to constantly track a parent's mood develop what's called enhanced threat cue detection. In childhood, this kept you safe. In adulthood, it looks like wisdom, like emotional intelligence, like you can simply see through people. And the truth is, you can. The weight you carry isn't that you're wrong about what you see, it's that you're almost never wrong. And holding truths about people that they never asked you to notice, that's a very specific and very isolating kind of loneliness. Sign 3, chaos calms you. Calm makes you anxious. When everything falls apart, a crisis, an emergency, a moment where other people freeze or panic, something in you goes quiet and strategic. Your thinking sharpens instead of scattering. But when things are calm, genuinely stable, nothing wrong, that's when the restlessness starts creeping in. That's when an anxiety with no obvious source begins to surface. Neuroscientists call this pattern stress inoculation. When a developing brain is exposed to manageable levels of stress, it builds something like a psychological immune response. The brain learns that difficult situations are survivable, and it develops efficient pathways for handling them. The paradox is that you function beautifully in conditions that break other people down, but real, sustained peace feels foreign to you. Your nervous system doesn't trust stillness, because historically, calm was just the space between one storm and the next. Sign 4, you became a psychologist without ever choosing to. Most people move through life taking human behavior at face value. Someone is angry, they assume it's about right now. Someone is distant, they assume that person is simply cold. You've never been able to do this. You learned early that what people show you and what's actually happening underneath are often not the same thing. So without ever choosing to, you became a student of human nature. You studied patterns, triggers, inconsistencies. You learned to map behavior backward to its source. This person lashes out because no one ever taught them how to name their own emotions. That person overgives because love in their childhood home was always conditional. You do this instinctively now, and it has made you deeply understanding sometimes to your own detriment. But what you've developed is real psychological depth. You don't just see behavior, you see the architecture holding it up. That's not just intuition. That's a mind trained by necessity to understand what other people never had to learn. Sign 5. You built yourself because no one else was going to. You are fiercely, almost unnaturally self reliant. You don't wait for people to rescue you. When something needs to be done, you quietly do it yourself, often without telling anyone. From the outside, this can look like you don't need anyone. But it's because you learned at an age when you should have been learning other things entirely that depending on people carries risk. Psychologists call this internalized resourcefulness. A brain facing an unreliable outside world learns to turn inward, developing competence as a substitute for security it never reliably had. But the cost is worth naming. You learn to survive alone so well that you sometimes forget you don't have to anymore. Asking for help is still, after all these years, one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Sign 6. You feel everything louder than everyone else. You don't just experience emotions, you absorb them completely. A small, kind gesture from a stranger can genuinely bring you to tears. Injustice lives in your body, sits in your chest. Other people move through emotional experiences and let them go. You've never fully understood how they do that. For you, emotions have weight, texture, duration. They stay. Neuroscience explains this. The amygdala becomes more reactive through repeated early activation. You weren't born too sensitive. Your nervous system was tuned to a higher frequency by an environment that required it. The same sensitivity that makes you ache at things others ignore is exactly what allows you to connect deeply and understand suffering in a way that makes you genuinely kind. Sign 7. Your trust isn't given, it's survived. You don't trust easily, not with the version of yourself that isn't performing. You can be in a room full of people who like you and still feel completely unknown. Your trust isn't a switch, it's a door that opens slowly. After a long series of tests other people don't even realize they're taking. Cognitive psychologists call this adaptive skepticism. Your brain learned early that not every smile is safe, so it built filters quietly evaluating consistency over time. The result is that your circle is smaller, but real. When you finally let someone in, they're meeting someone who chose them deliberately, fully aware of what trust costs. What's interesting about all 7 signs is how consistently they get misread. The person who can't relax looks anxious. The one who sees through people looks judgmental. The one who trusts slowly looks cold. But underneath every sign is the same story. A mind built by difficulty, sharpened by necessity. This isn't something to romanticize, the sharpness was real, but so was the cost. The fact that you can recognize this in yourself now means you already have what you need to start using it on purpose. Which of these 7 signs hit closest to home for you? Tell me the number in the comments. I read every single one. If this video helped you understand yourself a little better, subscribe to the Mind Explained new videos every week. Thank you for staying until the very end. I'll see you in the next one.